Hello, everyone. Welcome anyone who is watching live right now on Facebook or those who are listening to the podcast or YouTube later on. I'm Emma Goldblatt. I'm the program manager here at Shamayim, and we have an amazing panel for you today. And so we have here today Rabbi Shmuley Yanklowitz, the founder and CEO of Shamayim, and we also have Omri. Omri is 39 years old, vegan for 10 years, and a law graduate from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. 10 years ago, Omri founded the nonprofit organization Vegan Friendly, whose goal is to advance the vegan lifestyle in Israel and increase the awareness of animal welfare as fast as possible. So welcome, everyone. We're just going to jump in. And first thing I wanted to ask was to ask Omri about Vegan Friendly and its mission.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much also for having me. Basically, I became vegan 10 years ago. And the beginning, I ate meat, ate everything. And then after watching a lecture, I became vegan immediately the same night. Realized how terrible everything that has to do with factory farming is. It's destroying the world. It's killing animals, the planet, or health. And decided I want to dedicate my life to promote veganism. And so already after a couple of months from the evening that I became vegan, I decided to start Vegan Friendly. And our mission is to get to a vegan world because of the things that I just mentioned. And we work we have a very unique model, I think, to get there. We also work in the aspect of making veganism accessible. So for any person that wants to become vegan, it will be as easy as possible. And in the second aspect, we work on raising awareness to what goes on in factory farming. And we do that by launching national and international campaigns to raise awareness and to create a dietary change. And so in the first part of making veganism accessible, we have the vegan friendly certification. If somebody visited Israel in the last 10 years, I'm sure that he saw the vegan friendly logo, the pink heart. We have it on about almost like 2,000 businesses. And also on products, we have it on 15,000 products. And then we also certify employers that are vegan friendly towards their employees. We have really big events. Just this year, we had an event for 85. It's not an event; it's a festival for 85,000 people. We had the biggest animal rights march in history in Tel Aviv, also. And so there's like lots of activity that we do to make veganism accessible and raise awareness. So in that aspect, we also had huge campaigns that I'm guessing that maybe you've seen. We had TV ads and billboards, and also we have lectures that we give all over the country. We have a very famous a YouTube lecture that got over 5 million views. It became the most viewed lecture in the country, in Israel. And because of the success that we've had in the last 5 years, we decided to launch Vegan Friendly also in the UK 3 years ago. And just 2 weeks ago, we launched in the States, starting in the East Coast, New York, and probably during next year also in the West Coast, LA, San Francisco. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so exciting that it's growing, and I can't wait until I see some vegan friendly stuff here in Arizona even. That'd be amazing. So next question I want to ask you is, what are some trends in the Israeli vegan scene right now? And which ones give you optimism and which ones do you think are less encouraging?
Yeah, well, I think that, well, first of all, something interesting about Israel, 10 years ago, and when I became vegan, Israel was a very non-vegan country. We had less than 1% vegans in the country. Now Israel is considered to be one of the most vegan countries in the world, probably the most, with 5% vegans. And so yes, in the beginning, the vegan movement in Israel was very about animal rights, activism. For example, 2014, Tal Gilboa won the Big Brother reality show, which is the most popular show in the country. And we had lots of undercover investigations, protests all the time, vegan congresses, lots of activities like that. And in the last, I think, 5 years, we see that the activism in the vegan movement in Israel has shifted more to consumers. So lots of food tech, plant-based food tech companies Cell-based companies have like a cultured meat, cultured milk, cultured honey. So that industry has grown really fast. It gives me a lot of optimism because I mean that could, you know, really move the needle if like all of a sudden you have cultivated meat and products like that. And it also has to do with like the aspect of the how that we talked about, how to make veganism as accessible as possible. So that's very encouraging. I think that, I mean, overall things are moving forward really fast. Maybe I'm less encouraged about like the situation with the government. The businesses and the people, like everybody in the country have been like moving forward so fast towards veganism in the last 10 years, except the government that still is like way behind. We and I don't even know what's going to happen with this government. But yeah, at one point we tried to promote veganism through with the government, but it was just like very difficult because there wasn't like the governments kept changing with all the elections, so there was like basically impossible. And so I'm a little bit concerned about that, but I really believe that if it comes down from the people, down to up or something. I forgot the expression, like from the down from the people up to the
Top
government.
down, yeah.
Top down to up down.
Oh no,
What's that again?
bottom up. Yeah,
Bottom up, bottom up. Yeah. If that happens bottom up, then eventually they'll have to do something. Yeah. So lots of things to be very proud of. And some things to also improve a little bit if possible. Just like everything has to do with the government, like we feel that we don't really have control on that. So that's a bit problematic. Maybe if one day there'll be a vegan party in the Knesset that might make a change, because like, we've had vegan parliament members in non-vegan parties, and we didn't really feel that they're able to make a real change, which was a little bit disappointing. But overall, I'm really happy. Overall, I'm really happy with the last decade of promoting veganism in Israel. Overall.
That's great to hear. That's awesome. Okay, well, my next question for you, Omri, is how does being Jewish and Israeli affect or inform how you lead vegan friendly?
Well, I think that first of all, just like the fact that we're in Israel and like we have the whole kosher thing, that's a huge factor, because it's much easier to promote plant-based options. And so, for example, if you're like a huge company now and you want to launch, let's say, a vegan chocolate, then obviously, yeah, like you think about like the vegans, but now you have a whole sector of people that eat kosher that it will be good for them to, you know, snack on the chocolate after they eat their main course of meat, for example. So just having like that really helps. Also in Israel, we have a Mediterranean diet, and lots of salad, hummus, falafel, tabbouleh, like all that stuff, which is also amazing. And I also feel a very strong Jewish and Israeli connection all over the world, meaning that like when we launched in the UK, we found that Israelis in the UK and Jewish people in the UK wanted to help a lot, just by the fact that we're like both Jewish or Israeli, and also now in the States. So like, I do feel that on a global aspect, there's this like sense of a feeling of community. And I would be really proud if Israel could like lead the way and be the first vegan nation in the world. Originally, my mom, she came from the States, grew up in a very Zionist family, and I grew up with those values. And unfortunately, in the last couple of years, like with the government and like the leaders of the country, like things are not in a good path. That I mean, I feel lots of other people feel the same way, but still, Israel is really important for myself and lots of other people. And I'm happy that we can, lead the way already now with 5% vegans, 5% vegetarians in Israel. And yeah, and be like Or LaGoyim in at least one aspect.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. Rabbi Shmuley, I have a question for you. What trends are you seeing in the American Jewish vegan community, and which ones give you optimism and which ones are less encouraging there?
Thank you, Emma, for your thoughtful question and for all the great work you do. And Omri, it's inspiring to listen to you and learn about all the work you're doing. It's just had such a huge impact. So it's great to be here with you. Well, I'll start with the pessimism. I have to admit that I thought we'd be much further along globally at this point, and in America, not to mention in the American Jewish community. With all we know today, there is so much education around animal suffering. There is so much good food alternatives, not to even mention lab meat or cultured meat, or fake meat, whatever you want to call it. The whole Beyond industry, Impossible industry, and the like, it is blown up. I mean, so people know more than they ever knew. The suffering is worse than it's ever been, and we have better food alternatives than ever. And yet, the growth of vegans and even of vegetarians is far slower than it should be. So that's a source of pessimism for me, is that human change is very hard. Consumer change is very difficult. And people are very attached for psychological reasons and other reasons to what they used to eat. And so I'm pessimistic about that. And the American Jewish community, by and large, continues to be complicit. Those who keep kosher are complicit in factory farming, in kashrut. And those who don't keep kosher, but have kind of assimilated into American capitalism, are also complicit in the factory farming industry. And so there's a lot to be concerned about and pessimistic about. That said, there's a lot I'm pleased with and optimistic about. That there's people who understand that this is the greatest form of suffering on the planet today. Tens of billions of land animals, not to mention fish, that are killed for food each year. And that 99% of them are killed in factory farming. This is quantitatively and qualitatively the greatest form of suffering today. People are starting to understand that. And they understand that big ag, the agricultural lobbies, are controlling policy, and that they are controlling subsidies that the government is giving to make this form of food even cheaper. And people are starting to change. Some are changing because of human health. Their doctors are telling them they have cardiac disease, the number one form of nonviolent or non-traumatic, form of death, sustained illness. And their doctors are telling them that they need to reduce their animal product intake. Unfortunately, many doctors don't tell them that, because those doctors haven't been educated in nutrition and in these studies. But many people are doing it for health reasons. Secondly, there are environmentalists that understand climate change, and they understand that factory farming is on the top of the list as a culprit. That said, if you've never seen Cowspiracy, you should see it, because it exposes the hypocrisy in the environmental movements and how big money has convinced environmental organizations to avoid the factory farming issue. They talk about changing light bulbs and changing our cars and talk about oil, and all of that is important, but they ignore this issue, many of these groups, and that's got to stop. But thirdly, in addition to the environmental and human health, people are understanding that this form of animal suffering is entirely unnecessary. And that is leading people to change. Some are becoming vegan, not enough. Some are becoming vegetarian, not enough. But many are reducing. They are reducing. They're buying almond milk and soy milk and oat milk and rice milk and 100 other kinds of milk. They are buying tofurkey and Impossible Burgers and Beyond Meat because they understand there's a change. Our work at Shamayim is about institutional change. Individuals need to change, but synagogues need to join the Synagogue Vegan Challenge. Hillels need to embrace the vegan options. We are working for systemic Jewish communal change, and we're seeing success in that. The last thing I'll say here is that, as Omri said over there, that working with government has limited results for various reasons, right? We can't do top-down change. We need grassroots, bottom-up change, and that means education, and that means inspiration, and that means a spiritual consciousness, an elevated spiritual consciousness that we are all on this planet together. We all care about each other, humans and non-human animals. And on that front, we're seeing a lot of impact. People are watching films, they're reading books, they're thinking. And we've only scratched the surface. We got to keep going.
Yes, very well said. I do. Oh, Omri, did you have something to say to add to that?
Um, I agree completely with Rabbi Shmuley. I just want to add that I remember that when I became vegan, it's interesting because I was very naive when I started, because at the time I didn't even know what veganism was. I didn't know any vegans. Somebody told me that he's a vegan. I would ask what is veganism. I don't really know. And I think that when I became vegan, it seemed to me very logical that every person that will know that if people just knew what goes on in factory farming, then everybody will become vegan, because what kind of person will choose to continue and consume these products when they know that it causes so much suffering? So, and I honestly believed in that when I started. I think that that's also one of the reasons why it was easy for me to say, okay, I'll dedicate my life to something like this, because I really thought that, we can make a very fast change. So I understand now, obviously, that it's not going to be a very fast change, but if you look at it in the long run, you say, okay, how much did we progress in the last, not year, but last 5 years? And then how much did we progress in the last 10 years? It seems like we still see a positive growth in the graph. So it probably won't happen next week, but I am positive that it's going there. And especially because in the state of mind, almost everybody is vegan. I mean, if you take a random 100 people from the street and ask them to butcher the animal themselves to eat it, or even just witness somebody else butchering the animal, and I mean, it would be obvious that almost all of them won't want to take part of it and be disgusted by it. So it's not even convincing people in something that they don't believe in. It's mostly making the connection and causing them to change a habit, but to something that they actually believe that and are aligned morally with. So on one hand, I feel like it's can be relatively easy. On one hand, just because lots of people are aligned already with that moral aspect. But on the other hand, it's changing a habit, and people, it's difficult for them to change. It doesn't have to do with veganism. It's changing a job, a relationship, starting to exercise, whatever it is. It's always difficult to get people to change. But I do believe that if we get to a certain point, a critical mass, then from that point, the change can happen much faster than what we think. So overall, I'm optimistic, and that's one of the reasons why we're continuing on doing what we do, because the change will come. It has to come, and yeah, it's going to happen.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. Okay, this next question goes to Rabbi Shmuley. How would an expansion of Shamayim into Israel look compared to how things are run over here in the States?
Oh, such an interesting question. And I'd love to hear Omri on this as well. But, I think that American Judaism is very institutional. We have Reform and Conservative and Orthodox and Reconstructionist and Renewal and JCCs and federations. And if you participate in American Jewish life, you participate in those institutions, or some of them. In Israel, you don't have to participate in any Jewish institution, right? Because you are Israeli. And so that's a very different way of being Jewish. Yes, if you're Dati, if you're religious, you may be, have a shul, you go to a Beit Knesset, but otherwise, you may not participate in any institution that is inherently Jewish. And so that's a very different way of creating change on a cultural level rather than through the Jewish institutional level. The other thing I would say is that just like in America, everyone is in a box, like I mentioned, the denominations. In Israel, there's boxes too, right? You're in the box of your political party, right? Who do you vote for? You're in the box of your Israeli identity. Are you Chiloni or Haredi or Dati Leumi, or are you Russian or Yemenite or Ethiopian, right? And so everyone is in a political box, an ethnic box. There is a broader Israeli culture beyond that, but that's also something very different, Sephardi, Ashkenazi. And so how to tap into those identities to uniquely reach people on this issue. And as Omri can speak to even better than me, a Haredi, an ultra-Orthodox Jew in Israel, is not going to be influenced by and large by a Chiloni, a secular publication, and vice versa. And vice versa, a Chiloni is not going to listen to a Haredi rabbi, and so we have to access those unique leaders in different movements to reach their own populations. Also, the American Jewish community has very different values, by and large, than Israeli Jews, and are encouraged by different things. For example, Israelis, by and large, have a very, or at least in the secular community, a very strong health focus, very big focus on the outdoors, on exercise, right? That's why the biggest vegan population in Israel, of course, is the secular community, where they go to the beach, they go hiking, they're very outdoors focused, in a way that secular American Jews are as well, in many ways. And so how do we tap into that culture of kind of a wellness of living? And I think the last thing I would say for the moment is Jewish history. I do think that Jewish history can have a big influence on the Israeli vegan scene. The Holocaust consciousness is not a small thing. People understand trauma from the Holocaust. They understand trauma from Israeli society. And focusing on suffering and trauma is one entry point into this. But there's also Israeli culture around joy, not just around trauma, and kind of the joy of positive living that can be accessed as well. Where I don't have good answers, and maybe Omri does, is how do we build a bridge? What is the commonality between Israeli vegans? This is a question for you, Omri. A commonality between Israeli vegans and Jewish American vegans. Is there any shared language or values to build a bridge there?
I'm not sure. I think that if Americans are like they feel that they would like Israel to lead the way and be very successful in the vegan movement, then maybe to be in that way, because Israel is at the moment in the forefront, 5% vegans. So maybe there, supporting, or I don't know, trying to find ways to cooperate in any possible way. If that answers the question.
Yeah, awesome. Omri, what do you think works globally? You're not just thinking about Israel. You're not just thinking about Jews. What do you think is the most powerful way globally for us to create this kind of revolution? What inspires empathy? What leads to behavioral change, right? What are some of the top 2 or 3 things that you think that all vegan advocates, wherever they live, should think about putting forward?
Yeah, I think the golden triangle is to try to educate people. It's just a lot of times it's difficult to do it on a global scale, because reaching to each person, that's something that takes more resources and time. But on one hand, education, the other hand, accessibility, and then the third angle of the triangle is the policy. If we could also accommodate the vegan revolution with the right policy, that could create a big change. Also, actually, technology. I forgot that also, but that's has to do a little bit in accessibility, but definitely technology. And I think that also, and I said a triangle, I'm not talking about 5 things now, but I think also if we, a lot of organizations, a lot of activists, the way they think and the way they act, it's not always aligned with our capital. We live in capital times, so it's not aligned with the capital, the way people live. So, for example, when I started Vegan Friendly, if activists wanted to add vegan options to menus, the way they would act was to threaten the business owners and have and threaten to boycott them. And vegan friendly, one of the things that they did was to like understand that to motivate businesses is not to threaten them, but to try to work with them and to show them how they can profit from it. So I think that there is a lot of room to grow in all like the fiscal world, like try to like think of like how to create business models that will promote veganism. And because like still a lot of activists or like working from like anger and hate,
Right.
and that might be, I mean, it limits you to how much you can progress. Like I personally, I don't believe in that as a motive. I believe in like, you know, uniting people and trying to find common grounds to work on. So for example, Strauss is one of the biggest companies in Israel, and I think like they're like 4% of all the sales in Israel, the food sales, are from this company. And when we started, they were like really afraid of us, and they didn't want to cooperate in any way. And now we work really close together, and like also with time, like even like the last gala that we had 3 weeks ago, we had lots of people in the gala that weren't vegan from like from the industry, from like companies from that like sell lots of animal products and in their products. So we kind of like made a bridge between veganism and our activism to other companies that are not necessarily vegan. So yes, also that's also really important. It can get us a far way.
I love that. And I think that that's central to our work at Shamayim as well, the sense that we can't have vegan rage. We can't be yelling at people and create a toxic culture. This needs to be a spiritual movement, a bridge building movement, a positive one, and a collaborative one. I love that. Speaking of that, tell us a little bit about your work with Hapoel Tel Aviv basketball team.
Yeah, it's actually a really cool project. First of all, in Vegan Friendly, we have a membership club that's called Vegan Active. We encourage people to join the organization with a monthly donation so we can have lots of resources to launch lots of campaigns that will create a dietary change and raise awareness. So one of these campaigns is the main sponsorship in Hapoel Tel Aviv, which is at the moment they're like in the league, but definitely one of the best teams in the league. And it's the first time that a vegan organization, or maybe any nonprofit organization, took a main sponsorship, which means that like a large part of their activity and platforms became vegan or vegan friendly. So like on their shirt, they have the vegan friendly logo and a sentence that says, "Give it a shot," because I like basketball and give it a shot to veganism. And the basketball court, we have also cute stickers talking about moving to veganism. We have LED screens also that have lots of like videos talking about like the environmental impact, animal impact, and also health impact. And that's like what people can see it on television. So it's like between 50 to 250,000 people watching their every game. They have like 30 home games throughout the season. In the kiosk, we added vegan hot dogs, vegan pizza, vegan ice cream, vegan chocolate bars. So like the canteen became almost completely vegan. And in every game, they have like almost 4,000 people attending the game. And the VIP room, the whole VIP room became vegan friendly, completely vegan, sorry, not vegan friendly, which is also very significant. And we also have lots of activities with the team and the youth club. So all of the teenagers playing in Hapoel Tel Aviv are going to have a evening that they're going to watch Game Changers, which is amazing. And the basketball team itself themselves also watch Game Changers. We also took them to vegan restaurants. We're going to take them to farm sanctuaries. So it's like lots of platforms where we can promote veganism through the sponsorship. And yeah, I think it's something that's like has never been done, revolutionary, and like nobody would think, that a nonprofit will become a main sponsor. And so lots of people were like really surprised, but it's extremely effective. Like we try to think outside the box all the time. Like what can we do? How can we get to new people? How can we get more attention and have our message get to like also like new audience? And I think that like by doing it with like everything like vegan friendly and not yelling at people and saying like you're this and that, but just like showing like always the positive side, it allows us to get to more people. I mean, for more people to listen to us. So like all of this project, like in the beginning, we thought like maybe, you know, get a pushback, but it's actually has been embraced. And lots of fans that are not vegan approached us and like thanked us for like what we're doing. Because for them, they see it as like now they have a sponsor that actually has a value behind it and not just like, I don't know, paint or software or something like that. So yeah, really happy with it. It's going to be until the end of the year, also in the Israeli league and also in Europe. And it's like one of their best seasons. I don't know if it's, you know, because of our sponsorship, but yeah, they're doing really well and getting a lot of attention. We're getting a lot of attention. Veganism is getting a lot of attention. So that's great.
Awesome. Wow, that's great. Sounds like such a unique way to reach a new group of people. So awesome about that. Okay, so I did want to move on to our final question. I know we already did touch on a bit about how hard this work is and that sometimes progress can feel slow, but I did want to know if you had anything to add about what gives you hope and just perseverance to keep going with the vegan movement. Omri, would you like to start?
Yeah, well, personally, I can say that after the army, I traveled in the world for about 4 years. Usually it's a couple of months. Israelis travel a couple of months. For me, it was 4 years. And it gave me a lot of time to think like what I want to do with my life. And at some point, I got to a realization that to do things that would just, you know, get me more money, fame, degrees, whatever, won't be meaningful for me because like eventually we'll die and nothing actually stays from that. So I decided I want to do something with my life that will be meaningful. I didn't know exactly what that's going to be, but then when I was encountered with with veganism, I decided that this is it because like as Rabbi Shmuley said, like this is the area where like the most injustice is happening, and also as an individual, I feel that I can make the most impact because like just one person, you know, consumes thousands of animals during his life. So every person that we were able to change his diet, that, you know, makes a huge difference. And already now in Vegan Friendly, we're like on a scale that we're changing the lives of tens of thousands of people every year. So I mean, just like seeing the impact that we're able to do already now, that's very encouraging. Yeah, obviously, you know, like you have it's a long battle, a long road, a long way to go. So that could be sometimes frustrating, and especially if, you know, like sometimes like if you zoom in just like a month or maybe even a year, you might not see a huge difference, and that might be frustrating. But if you look back for like a realm of like 5 years, 10 years, and you see like how many amazing things have been done. So that's that also really helps. And yeah, also sometimes like to get to a final result, you need to work really hard building the infrastructure. So it could feel sometimes frustrating that like to get to a certain place, I feel that we're doing lots of things that are taking lots of resources, and you want to get there already. But yeah, I mean, I think we've done amazing things in Vegan Friendly already now, and like just that is something that motivates me to continue. And like honestly, like I wait to wake up every day and just like promote veganism. Like I don't see myself as like working in it. I'm just like, you know, I'm so fulfilled. I'm so happy that I can live my life in this way. And I honestly wouldn't, I can't imagine myself doing anything else. I'm really fulfilled and happy and really hopeful, really positive about the future, honestly.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm so inspired by Omri, and I really think you're such a Kiddush Hashem, such a source of pride to Israel and to the Jews to be doing this work. And I'm really just in awe of it all. So thank you so much. Like Omri, I feel so privileged to be able to wake up and be an advocate for this, and my kids as be an advocate for this at their schools. In terms of what motivates me and you know, to keep going, part of it is my children. I think about them and their future. What world are we passing along to them? You know, and not just my kids, but of other kids, you know, of the next generation. I think of halachta bedrachav, of what it means to live a life of integrity and compassion, and just walking a spiritual path of feeling like we want to, spread more compassion than hate, spread more love than pain. And how do we do that each day? And I feel like my just food choices feels like a big part of my spiritual path. And then I think, lastly, is just I think a lot about, and it's kind of overwhelming, but what it would be like to be an animal. I mean, obviously humans are animals, but what it would like to be a non-human animal and to live in that. And I just want to live in solidarity with those other forms of life, and be a voice for the voiceless, and be able to give sight to the unseen. And that really motivates me, because I think of times of pain in my own life and people who stood up for me and want to be there to stand up for others as well. And so I think those are the main things. And the last thing I would say there is that I think that when we look back at history and we're embarrassed by things that humans thought were okay, slavery was okay, or women can't vote, or oppressing the LGBT population. I mean, the long list of things that we should be embarrassed about, there's no doubt to me in the future, people are going to be just outraged by what we allowed to happen in our time period. And I want to be on the right side of history, not because of ego, but because I just want to be, as Martin Luther King said, that the arc of history bends toward justice. I really believe in that source of progress. So anyways, thank you, Omri, for your amazing thoughts and work, and Emma for your questions. And Emma, I'll pass it over to you for the conclusion.
Great, thank you. It was great to hear from both of you. So thank you so much again. Just to wrap up here, I did want to ask everyone, we're coming, towards the end of the year and stuff. I want to ask you to donate to Shamayim and also Vegan Friendly. I will put the links in the bottom of this live, or if you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast, the links will be there as well. And lastly, I did want to just remind you that we have another class today live on Facebook with Rabbi Aryeh, and it will be very interesting, and that's going to be at 6 p.m. ET. So we hope to catch you there. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you later.